Hello everyone, Sketch here, and today I'll be covering the laser challenge using Dr. Thrax. As usual, I'll be playing hard difficulty, and as with my other guides, I will talk about the general strategy that I use to defeat the laser general, as well as tips and tricks that you can use to get ahead. Now just a note before we jump right in, I'll be covering a lot of points regarding different phases of this run, so what I say might be out of sync with what's happening on screen. So feel free to jump to different points of the video if you want to get a better sense of what I mean. Finally, I may have made other videos covering this same challenge using the other GLA generals. My GLA strategies are quite similar, but all of them have slight differences that give them certain advantages and disadvantages. If I make such guides, I will link them in the cards that you'll see on the top right corner. And without further ado, let's get right into this run. Now first things first, there are 3 supply docks on this map. One in your main base, one north of you on the northwest corner, and one east of you right on the southeast corner. While you don't have to claim the supplies from those bases, they are quite easy to grab, so you might find it worthwhile to send a worker to each dock first. Securing those resources will make any follow-up attack on his base much easier, as you will have the money to spam scorpions or quads or what have you. I have experimented with 2 base and 1 base economies, and I find that while playing 1 base or 2 base is just a wee bit easier to manage in the beginning, 3 base leaves you with much more resources for any fallback plan that you want to execute. So for this guide, I will assume that you take all 3 supply docks. Now go ahead and build the supply stashes at all 3 docks. For defense, you'll want to do a few things. Firstly, at your main base, you'll want to cover every passage to your base with tunnel networks. 3 networks should be enough to cover your main base. On your outer bases, a single tunnel network is enough just to connect them to your base. Use the RPGs that come out of your tunnel networks to garrison the nearest neutral building, at least on your side bases. Now back to the main base, take all your RPG troops from the tunnel networks and put them into the neutral building that I garrison in this video. And destroy the neutral building right next to it so that you have a clear view of the tanks he sends out after you. A laser general sends attack waves comprising of a sentry drone, a laser tank, and later on an Avenger. So your RPGs should have no issue with those. You'll notice in this playthrough that I skip on getting the tunnel networks until quite late, and as the networks usually see action only maybe about 4 minutes in a game or so. So it's okay to skip getting the networks and focus on completing the tech tree instead. This is for me to save time, and I will touch on this a little more later. Now sometimes the case might be that the rangers move in and garrison nearby buildings bordering your base. As GLA, you have Toxin tractors to clear those buildings out, but as Toxin General, you can make it a little cheaper on yourself by getting Toxin troopers instead to spray the rangers dead. Your rebels may get killed by the rangers as they try to get in range depending on the situation, so if you want to play safe, just have the rebel garrison a building next to the rangers instead. If all else fails, you can always fall back to using Toxin tractors, but I personally wouldn't spend too much effort on clearing rangers at this time. General towns will occasionally send a single Comanche towards your side bases. Your RPGs in the buildings should be enough to fend the Comanches off, but sometimes the Comanches will aggro onto your main base instead, and it can really put a hole in your base if you don't answer the Comanches quickly. So to deal with this, either keep a quad in your tunnel network as reserve, or place a stinger site behind the machine shop, as the Comanches tend to appear there should they move away from your eastern side base onto your main base. Now, before things really begin to ramp up, before I continue, if you like guides like these and you want more, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get notified when I upload more. Now back to the guide. Let's talk about this strategy. To start, we're going to try to rebel ambush into his base and cap everything from within. Now I've been tinkering with this strategy and I've had all sorts of trouble with the rebel ambush being shut down before it can get anywhere. So this strategy doesn't always work that reliably, to be honest, but when it does work, it works excellent. Right? I will cover the fallback strategy later, but in the meantime, the focus should be on reaching 3 stars first. Now, the 2 main ways we're going to do this is to firstly go around clearing rangers out of buildings, and getting rocket buggies to poke at his laser defenses. This is why getting the tech tree up the palace as soon as possible is important. Now straight tech up to the palace and get the black market out first. While the black market is coming up, go ahead and get yourself a bunch of rocket buggies. In the meantime, get the capture upgrade while you're waiting so you don't forget to get it before your rebel ambush. When the rocket buggies come out, have them pick at the laser turrets, the closest laser turrets to your base. Be careful not to get too close to the defenses, particularly the fire base, as it has quite a long range and it will two-shot your rocket buggies. For simplicity, you can just attack the defenses nearer your base. You don't have to destroy all of them, just knock out defense buildings here and there until you reach 3 star, which shouldn't take too many kills. In the meantime, Laser General's first particle cannon should be starting up soon. There's a sort of priority order which Laser General uses to decide what to fire at. The first and third cannon go for base defenses, while the second cannon usually goes for your command center. While you might think that as GLA, tunnel networks effectively only cost $200 because you discount the value of the RPGs and all, so it's okay to let the networks die. But let's say you want to save a little more. What you can do is plant a construction site down. you see the particle cannon logic also counts construction sites. So we're going to set up a tunnel network construction site at a clearing near the hospital, and when the particle cannon begins to fire, we just cancel the site and get all our money back. Now, just two things to note about this. First, you must set the site before the cannon fires. If not, the cannon will target something else instead, probably another tunnel network. Secondly, make sure you cancel the construction site before the particle cannon can touch it. If not, you will lose all your 800 bucks for nothing. Now, another note on the particle cannon's logic: if you decide to build your Scud Storm, or super weapon for that matter, particle cannon logic changes. He will instead fire all 3 cannons at the super weapon closest to his base. Now, this applies to all generals. Fortunately, you can also do the construction site trick. The only thing is, as super weapons are really expensive, you'll have to set aside some money to make sure you can deploy the construction site. I normally use the field near my main base for this build site. The same rules apply as with the tunnel networks. The Scud Storm, however, is pretty big, and the moment the particle cannon lands, it will hit the Scud Storm. If you're worried about not cancelling your Scud Storm in time, leave your worker to build it up a little bit so that the construction site won't blow up immediately when the particle cannon lands, giving you a little bit of leeway to cancel. In addition, if you execute this strategy well, you can capture General Townsend's particle cannons before he gets a chance to fire at your super weapons, provided your rebels don't get killed first. If you're on 3-base economy, you should be getting plenty of money by now, and hopefully you'll have enough to split off for a Scud Storm. If all goes well, you probably won't even have the time to fire the Scud Storm, but just go ahead and build it anyway, for safety. Once you get 3 stars, put them all into Rebel Ambush. Don't bother getting cash bounty or anything else. You need the Rebel count to make it really work. This is where it gets a little hectic, so go ahead and come back to this segment on the video if you have to. Spawn the Rebel Ambush in the center, in the alcove between the barracks and the particle cannon. Send the rebels to capture everything within reach, including the 3 particle cannons. Try to get at least 4 reactors if you want to keep the particle cannons active and counting down. If you don't capture enough, you can always get control rods on whatever reactors you already have. Capture the airfield and quickly queue up a Comanche. Try to capture the airfield after you've gotten power, as you need the airfield to be powered if you want to squeeze out 1 Comanche before the nearby firebase or whatever units come to attack you can take it out. This Comanche will help you pick off stray reactors in your base and mop out whatever land army harasses your men. It's really effective. Try to get this Comanche out. Just don't fly your Comanche too far from the center, as his base defenses will kill it. Now for dealing with the enemy response. Laser General will send the units he normally attacks your base with at your rebels instead. To understand how to deal with it first, you have 3 units to worry about: the laser tank, the sentry drone, and the Comanche. Fortunately for us, the laser tank is quite easy to spray down, but the problem is it's usually accompanied by the sentry drone, which as Toxin General, you cannot attack it with your Toxin rebels. For the sentry drone, try to peel off a few of your rebels to lead the sentry drone away. You can interrupt the AI low by constantly microing the nearest rebel, or the rebel that the sentry drone is targeting around. You can micro him around to mess with the drone's pathing, buying a little bit of time for the rest of your rebels to capture other buildings. However, the Comanche is the real ambush killer. Because it's fast, it's not blocked by buildings like the sentry drone is, and can melt your rebels really quickly. To avoid the Comanche as much as possible, you have to time your ambush to right after it leaves its base. You can try to catch the timing by just waiting for the Comanche to attack your base before spawning the rebels in. Now on a side note, Stealth General has a better time with this initial phase, as his rebels are revealed only when they are capturing buildings, making this somewhat easier to execute, and Stealth General overall has other tricks which you can use to get ahead even more. Now the proper solution to defeating these 3 units is the Missile Defender. So you want to capture his barracks as quickly as possible so you can start training those. The problem is, if you're unlucky, his Comanche will just come right out and kill your rebel capturing the barracks before he can capture the barracks, which makes it doubly important to get those particle cannons first. As once the Comanche starts attacking the particle cannons, you'll have plenty of time to capture the barracks and get those Missile Defenders out. Once you get those out, you may have to protect them from rangers, so try to get rangers as well, or use your Comanche to run protection. If necessary, get your Toxin rebels close to your barracks, get your rebels to force fire on each other to lower their health a little bit, and then heal them up using the barracks so that they come out on the other side to protect your missile defenders, as simply walking them over will put them in range of a sniper. Now speaking of snipers, his base is surrounded by garrisons containing snipers. These snipers kill any infantry that you send to capture nearby buildings and have very long range, so you have to either avoid their line of sight or take them out. This is where the particle cannons come in. Use the first cannon to take out his northeast garrison as well as the airfield so you can't get any more Comanches. Use another cannon to take out one of the garrisons in the south so that you have access to capture the command center. If you send tanks or Comanches to attack you, get missile defenders from the center barracks to respond accordingly. Continue to capture the rest of the buildings and use your Comanche to take out any reactors too close to the snipers, particularly those in the north. Try to get the war factories as quickly as possible, as general towns will continue to build war factory units to attack you with. In addition, the war factories serve as good reference points to attack towards, as most of its key buildings are located along that axis. Don't be afraid to sell some buildings if you need to clear a safe path to the rest of the base. Finally, If you're having trouble capturing the command center, just spam missile defenders and blow it up. It's much more straightforward that way. Finally, for the victory condition, you can skip its base defenses as usual. You can also skip the sniper garrisons, thankfully. And for some reason, the 6 reactors on the bottom left of his base don't count towards victory and are skippable. I've also noticed a couple of reactors near the bottom war factory are also skippable as well, although I'm not exactly sure which reactors as I'm making this guide. Skipping all those reactors will make life a little easier as they are close to a couple of sniper garrisons and would require attention from your command sheet to deal with. Go ahead and capture some of them if they're in your way, or if you simply want to power your base up. Now for the fallback, your rebel ambush may get shut down the moment they spawn in. This is mostly timing dependent, but in my experience the timing can be a little hard to catch and a little random, to be honest. So if your ambush gets shut down, don't worry. The overall fallback plan should be to sneak attack in, get a second arms dealer, and get whatever units you want. Quads, buggies should be the standard. If you want to speed things up, get bomb trucks to kill the buildings around the edges of his base. In the meantime, use your buggies to poke further around his defense line to collect more EXP so that you can reach 5-star quicker. Once you reach 5-star, use your rebel ambush first if it's available so that they can absorb any Comanche aggro, followed by the sneak attack. Make sure your quads come out immediately so they can delete the Comanche and then bring the rest of your units in. And that was my guide. Thank you for watching. Do you have any suggestions for how to improve this strategy further? Do you have any questions about this guide? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed this guide otherwise, and I will see you in the next video. Stay safe, everyone.